Okay, I'm sorry about that. I figured eating a parfait on stream was not the smartest of choices. So I'm a little off tilt. Okay. So is the challenge when I switch context like this, I have a lot of stuff running for Liquid Sky. So I have to kind of figure out what that means. I don't like having the idea of running all Liquid Sky and trying to get developers.stream up and running, because it's if you get conflicts in services, etc., you start chasing problems you don't actually have. So anyway, that is that. My weekend was a good one, thank you, online. I got some progress made on Liquid Sky. We got the Teams concept starting to introduce. I also figured out how to get permissions automatically installed when we add a new permission into the relevant areas. Well, not automatically, but trying to get them a little smoother as far as deployment goes, which was good. Yeah, and just moving forward. I am looking at, where is it? Commands, timers. Just setting up a Hey, Ramley Geek. Good morning or good afternoon. Hope you are well. Sorry, I was trying to get things ready. I was trying to argue with a dog that did not want to come inside and knew that everything I was doing was trying to trick her. And yeah, I am a bit discombobulated. Funky weekend. Yeah, I figured we hadn't seen you very much, so you had to be all over the place. Wow. Is that me or is that the cup? So what I'm going to do... ...20 minutes. Okay, let's go with that. There you go. Okay. So, back to developers.stream. I apologize for Friday. I also have to apologize for tomorrow because I have a doctor's appointment, so I will not be streaming tomorrow, unfortunately. Although, that's not necessarily bad right this second. Okay, So what I was doing last time, previously on the stream, what I was trying to do is add the tags into the system. So what we decided was, or what I decided, um, my general rule is if you have a debate about how I should do something, then please join in. What we do is we go and get the streamer. We then go and see if we can find any matching labels for those IDs, right? So we return a list of these tags back with their IDs. The concept there being that we then want to discover. We want to insert the tags for a streamer for the ones that exist. That was the way I was thinking about it. I think this is one of those problems that when I get to this sort of stuff, it takes me a while sometimes to wrap my brain about how I actually want to tackle it. And I try to go for the refined solution before I go for the solve over the refined solution. First, Kenny in this channel. Hi, Kenny. How you doing? Hope you are well. Hope you had a great weekend. How was your stream with Merlin? I was lurking in there, but I just didn't get to hang out because focused on things. Fine, figuring out why systems died 2 weeks ago and no one realized. It's always fun when that happens, when you're like, really? This is a critical system now that everyone realized it's gone, but no one noticed in between. I always find that that's always the worst thing as well, because then people become very, very worried about every other thing failing, and can, yeah, you start wasting energy on. Maybe they're just so good they don't have anything to do, so. Or it was asked for and they didn't realize why they're using it. Okay, so let's just go back over the problem. So what I want to do is not duplicate. Yeah, stream with Merlin was chaotic times 10, even more with tempting. Morning, Sully. How you doing? Yeah, it is your afternoon. Yep. Um. Hmm. So I want to do something. Download Swedish. What have I got in there that makes you think I'm Swedish? Okay. Fair enough. So sorry, I've got a lot of thoughts. I'm planning features too far ahead in my head, like thinking through them, and it's creating confusion. So the way this works is there's a table which has an ID and a label, right? And I don't want to duplicate. Basically, I want to use them again if they're there. On the client side, we only pass the strings. Morning, Mojo. Hope you're well. We only pass the strings. So the first thing I'm going to do there is match them against what's in the table, so I can verify the ones I have. Right. So that's this part. Right? So if I have C# in there, then that comes back. If not, that's fine. Now I stopped because, well, I ended the stream, but I stopped proceeding with it even after that because what I realized was, deleting everything that's there is kind of wasteful. It's a wrong place to start. What we need to do is find the tags that we need to find the ones we need to remove. Right. So, did I include streamer by identifier? I want this one. I want that spec because now I have the tags that are currently associated with the streamer. Right. So I don't need to do the matching labels because I don't need to. No, I still need that one. Because I need to identify any new tags coming in. Let's do this though. If streamer dot tags dot all t goes to t dot label dot text. Okay, let's do that for right now. So if they all match, if we haven't changed anything. Morning, Delta. Skip out. Getting some simple recipes into my website. Nice. Actually, no, that doesn't mean that at all. I get the shape of this right in my head. Debating whether I'm holding to a design that makes sense, or whether I need to change the actual design. So, labels is a table with just the labels. Tags is the label associated with the streamer. That will get us all the ones. This will get us a list of the label IDs where we already have. Right. And it will return keyed on the text so we can look it up by the text. Right. Actually, let's just make that properly. Dictionary string int. It's just but doesn't make sense, but it's fine. Select. What's that going to do? How am I going to transform that to a dictionary? I don't think I can do that, can I? There's no extension on here that's going to give me that. Select is not going to do what I want. Yeah. That gives me the matching labels. And then let's do this. Dot to dictionary. K dot text. There you go. That's what I want. So if we have C# already, then we'll have an ID for that C#. If we don't have C#, then we won't have anything in there, which means we can't worry about that. So let's go capture some tags before we worry about the delete case. What I'll probably end up doing is writing some unit testing around this. This is where unit testing definitely helps me. The only reason I'm not doing it is because I haven't set up unit tests as yet. Again, mainly because I don't want to force anyone checking out this project to necessarily maintain that right now until I get a guideline in place. I'd like to say, you know, here's a project, you can play with it, you can tinker with it. If unit tests start failing when people start to do that, then that's not going to be fun. However, I can then use if I can build the unit test at the right pace, I can kind of write the right guides to here's how you would use the unit testing and here's what is impacted by this. This code base, you know, as much as I don't like comments, this code base is one that would benefit from some comments here and there. Could you create a branch with unit tests on it? I'd like to work on this project and I'd also like to learn unit testing. Yeah, I mean, I will add unit tests. I'm not saying I won't add them at all, but I didn't want to drive this application off unit tests right now, because there's a lot to it so far. Yeah, I will be adding unit tests. This sort of code is exactly why a unit test would be good. Maybe I can proceed with that. Yeah. Well, that's the problem. It's not. It's getting that set up right. I was thinking if you had a unit test branch, you could keep merging your master branch into it and have the test branch as an optional thing going in parallel. So merge the main branch in and then write the unit test in the test branch and commit the test back. Could work. Yeah. Well, yeah. 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 I got you. Well, let's have a think about that one as we go forward. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Okay. So we go through the tags that we've got, right? We're going to build a new tag. We're going to see if there's a matching label ID, right? For that tag. Actually, if matching labels dot try get value existing tag. In that case, you fix the bug on master, PR into master, and then merge it into the test branch again to get that back up to date. Yeah. What unit first? I'm a big fan of XUnit. XUnit is throughout all of Liquid Sky. Recently, I've been using XUnit and nsubstitute for mocking, which I've found to be very good. I think once I do start unit testing, what I'll do is I'll start small and slow so that people can have a say on the style and the whatever. I'm a big fan of adopting the style that works for the team that's working on it, rather than necessarily going exactly my way and saying this is the only way. But I think it's very important to introduce a style and introduce a pattern. I hate mocking less in .NET after learning about how difficult it is to add 2 records to existing database. Yeah, I mean, mocking has its place. Understanding your mocks and making sure you're comfortable with those things is again, unit testing is as effective. Unit testing is only effective, rather, if you understand the value of the unit test you're writing and you understand the things that you are testing. So we'll get there. I'm really starting to think that now might be the way, because my brain, I cannot. Let's do it this way. Let's do it my old way. Okay. So this is labels that exist. And I need to go through tags. This assumed to begin with that I was going to wipe out everything on the user. So tag repository is the actual tags associated with the user, right? So the concept here would be, or the idea was initially, delete everything and re-add everything. That's kind of wasteful. But it saves me from doing a what exists, what doesn't, and trying to merge in the differences, which oftentimes causes a mess. So you know what, Surly? We're going to do the tests. I'll just feel more comfortable if I do the tests. So let's add a new solution folder. We don't have, if we, as long as I don't put a, workflow that stops it from being merged on testing. Yeah, let's do it. It's fine. It's fine. I normally don't put them in the source folder. I do kind of put them at the same level as the source folder, so that tests sit above everything, above the source. Mainly because it just helps organize and stops them blowing in with all the rest of the code. So this would be developers.stream. I still don't like this naming style. Application.tests. We'll use X unit. Let's create that. Okay. Okay, so now I have no objections to anybody with opinions on how unit tests should be written. If you feel that I'm structuring them in a way that you don't like, if you want to discuss the naming conventions, please feel free. In the name of productivity, I reserve the right to bundle ahead and do what I'm going to do anyway. But yeah, but I'll start with the way I would do it, so that it's at least got something, and I'm not asking because everyone could be doing different things right now. So normally what I do is concerning update tags, right? So I don't Pascal case this. I try and make it so that you can see it at a glance and read it properly, right? So let's do it this way. Right. So we're going to do it as TDD, right? So when no tags are associated, right? So we're starting from the beginning. Fact, label is created for new tags. One or many does not matter here right a second. Fact tag is associated with streamer. Oof. At least you know what the fix is now. You have some experience going down that path, which means that you have a likelihood of fixing it much quicker. And if one of your colleagues deployed that in between, you have some more arguments for validation and testing. Okay, so when no tags are associated, I want to see that label is created for the new tag and that the tag is associated with the streamer, right? That's the thing I'm trying to test. The subject to my test is my update tags handler is my subject, right? So a test should only have one subject. You can have a few mocks. The more mocks you create, the likelihood is your thing that you are testing is doing a lot more than you really want to do, and the more mocks you have, the more setup and configuration you're going to need to do, and the more likely is that's going to be messy. So the reason I name my test this way is just from a readability perspective. If this is all when no tags are associated, it's a little bit more difficult. And when this runs in a unit testing tool, you'll see the difference because it will no tag. You can read the difference there, right? So it's a little bit clearer. It reads like an actual sentence. Now this passed because I have no assertions. I have nothing validating anything at the moment. So, but by running that, I have verified that the unit testing framework is set up. So what do we need to do to set this up? Now, this is going to be hard because I've got my arrange act thing. So I'm going to do this a more traditional way. I'm going to do this more arrange act assert. Over the years, I've kind of learned that I prefer the arrange and the act to be outside of the fact outside of the actual assertion, so that the assertion is very clear what it's testing. I find that more readable. It does mean that the organization of my unit tests are sometimes a little bit too light, I suppose, primarily because what I can test in this way is much richer than what I can test in my way, where the arrange and the act are done for every single test. So with this, I can arrange an act for each individual test, whereas if I'm doing it for the entire set of tests, then I'm testing a more narrow scenario. So if I'm testing what happens when it exists versus it doesn't exist, I can't um, 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 I can't test them in the same set of tests here. I have to create an exists and a not exists class. That being said, what Mojo pointed out there was there are times when this is perfectly fine, right? Even the way I do it, right? Because it does make sense to set them up in this way. So there are some tests that do follow that path, but the ultimate goal is to just make sure you are confident in your unit tests that they are doing something and they're not just there to make it look pretty and say, I checked the box, I can unit test. So let's go at it the more traditional way. New update tags dot handler. This requires already, because I've let it out, I need a label repository, a tag repository, and a streamer repository. Ultimately, because of those three things, those three repositories, I probably wouldn't do this inside of the application. I would probably move this out to a service of some form. Yes, those same dependencies would exist, but the application code to me is a simpler layer, and the domain code is a bit more involved. So, but for right now, we're going to put it in the application and worry about that distinction later on. If that comes around, we can move it around. It's not a problem. And if you have any thoughts, questions, opinions as I'm doing this, please feel free. Like I said, you're more than welcome to join in. You're more than welcome to ask questions or criticize if need be. So let's go and add and substitute. Again, I'm going to go with what I know. I like and substitute. I like the API. I like the style and the design of it. I did use mock for a long time, MOQ, but abandoned that when there was some controversy. Yeah. Okay, so we need a label repository equals substitute dot for I repository of label. That's our label repository. What label did I just include there? No, that's not that. That's not that one. That's that one. We need a tag repository. And we need a streamer repository. There you go. So label, tag, streamer. Our act is to handle a new update tags dot command with GUID dot new GUID and an empty array right this second. Again, I'm trying to validate that it works, not that it not that it passes necessarily. I don't know about other frameworks. XUnit does support asynchronous. So doing it this way, I can write an asynchronous test. And now our assertion is going to be that label repository dot. You'll see why my style of testing is useful soon. Arg.is label, L goes to L. Dot text equals new label. So we set it up, we act, and then we pass in that. What does this take? New. Oh, is it just a string? New label. Yeah. Right. So we want to test that when we say update tags, the new label, we get new label added. Right. But we got throw not implemented. So we actually know now that it's executing the code. Clearly, we have nothing happening there, so it doesn't matter. Now, again, because of this method here, there's two ways I can do this. I want to say label is created for new tag, so I can do that and validate that a new label was added. Then I just copy the entire thing, paste it over here, and then I want to validate that the tag repository received a new tag, right? And that the streamer equals streamer ID and L dot label ID equals new label ID, right? And then we need to do var, what am I doing? Local variables. Streamer ID equals GUID.newGUID. Var new label ID equals, no, that's, what I'm trying to do, I know that the code's not there, right? I know that this is all made up. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay down, and again, I'm doing this a bit backwards because I'm doing both tests in one go. But you want to build on top of the code, and that's the goal, right? You want to build on with extra features. And that's why I decided to just say forget it and do this, because my brain wasn't braining over the exact structure of the code I wanted to write. Doing it this way, I can think about the problem I'm trying to solve, establish the code, and make sure I'm not regressing on previous pieces that I've made. So the unit testing here is going to help me narrow in on a solution that works. It might not be the final solution, but then I've got a set of unit tests that allow me to refactor that code and still validate that the behavior is exactly what I want. So the unit testing is helping me a lot here. Streamer ID. Oh, streamer ID equals, yeah. That's not the streamer. Let's go with identifier var streamer ID equals 1009. Right. So these tests are going to fail, obviously, but they should now both fail for not implemented exception. Now, most of what I'm setting up in these two tests is exactly the same because they actually are both results of the same sort of code run. So it might be tempting to say, okay, well, now instead of doing two tests, why not just move it in there and say, everything works fine. Again, whatever you're comfortable with as a test. But the reason I'm careful not to do that is because I feel that it's not clear that that's happening. Yes, you're duplicating the effort. Yes, you're going through those same pieces of code twice. However, you are validating an individual scenario, which is again why I like doing this stuff outside and having these assertions all happen against the same root execution. It just means this piece is more consistent across the runs. I still need all this stuff that I've just brought down here up in this one to make it work. So, okay, so what do I want to have happen now? Well, I know I need a streamer, right? So the normal path here would be to try and make it write the code. So actually, let's comment this out. I'll show you. Okay, so we want to make it so it adds a label, right, of that value. So we go in here and we say await label repository to add async, new label, text equals command for each tag in command.tags. Okay, so we go back here, we run our test. We have a pass, right? This is where this gets difficult. What I was about to do before that was I was about to start overthinking it. Problem there is I shouldn't do. So I need to write the test to force me to make the next piece of code, right? So we know that when we've added a label, we should associate a tag with a streamer, right? So the second one will fail because we don't call add tag. So now we have a genuine failure because we never called add tag on the repository of the tag repository. This one still passes because we are adding the labels. So now let's go and make this pass. Right. So to do this, we are going to need to look up the streamer by its identifier, by their, not it, their identifier. And then, yeah. So var streamer equals await streamer repository dot command.identifier. Right. Now, again, we're only writing the code we need. So yeah. So now we need to that's a tough one. So we don't have the tag ID. We don't have the label ID of the tag we just added, right? We only have that column. So we'd have to look up all the tags again. If we do var labels to add equals man.tags .select the, and then we go labels to add. Right. Our first test is not broken again because we have to do add range. It is, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this one. I think that's going to do what I want it to do. Match argument is equal to value. What is that meant to be? Let's just run that for a second. That still passes, but that's not the right thing. So it's kind of a dumb test because I'm just saying I could pass in anything now and it will still pass this test. So I could pass in an empty string. It'll still pass, right? Because now I'm not validating that it's actually a value. So again, understanding what you're testing and why you're testing it is a really big part of doing this, because you want confidence that your test is going to catch something. The reason I'm changing this now is because as I look at this again, I can't achieve what I need to do in this next test because the first test did it a certain way. I need to change this, but that's now backing up. This should back up that behavior is still valid. Even if this test fails after my first go at the code, I still want to make sure that the first piece is passing. So this isn't useful. So how do I do? Is it? Oh, that's not going to do it. That's not going to do what I want, because text equals new label. That's not going to be what I want to test, because they're not going to be. They're not referential. So yeah. So I need the predicate, which is the array coming in. but that's going to be p dot it doesn't return a bool. Let's do n substitute. Arg.is array. Argument matches. Conditionally matching a specific, matching out on refs. How not. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how I do so the signature of this is expression predicate T, but P dot of course. L goes to L text equals new label. There you go. It's because I was thinking about it as an array of strings before. Yeah. So that should still pass. Right. Now I could do p dot count equals 1. But I'm not going to mess around with that. All of them should equal new label. I know what data is going in. I can control that. So I haven't broken that piece. The problem is I may not get the behavior I expect. And what I'm trying to avoid here is I'm trying to avoid writing code in the test that changes the behavior of the data, right? I've got to understand, okay, well, the database is going to behave one way or another. And the reason I say that is because what I'm saying here is create a bunch of labels and then add the range. Now, my assumption is that because these are being passed in by reference, it will set the IDs on these, right? Which means I have the label IDs. What you'll see is, because I need to go through these now and say, okay, well, for each var tag in command.tags anyway, right? Then tag repository dot add async new tag streamer ID equals streamer.id and label ID equals actually I don't need to do that, do I? I just need to go through labels to add again. I never like attaching the object there. Because I could do what I could do there is do label equals label, right? I prefer just attaching the ID, because I'm not querying it at that point. I'm not pulling the object back. So I don't see any benefit in doing it that way. Let's run this test. It's going to fail, right? Oh, object reference, right? So that failed now because the rest of the code is breaking this one. Update tags line 29. Yeah. So it is failing on this line. Now it's not because of tag repository. Tag repository is definitely set. However, that's failing because the code after it is not set up correctly, right? So none of this code works afterwards. So when it goes to insert that label, yeah. And I'll show you how we're going to test that in a second. But anyway, we need to make this pass. Okay, so in our range, we need to say we're assuming the streamer exists, right? And again, if you have any questions or opinions on what I'm doing, please feel free to share. You're more than welcome. So we're going to say streamer repository dot first to default arg.is. Now this is one where I haven't quite learned. I really need to figure out if this is possible. I have not learned how to match this properly yet, so I end up doing any, which it works for the test because I'm not doing anything but that. However, it does mean that I'm not actually matching, oh, did you pass these parameters into this? Did you do anything with this? I'm just saying, oh, did you give me a detail spec? So if we call it 5 times, this will always pass, even if I'm passing in different parameters or whatever. So most of my use cases haven't required me to do very much with that, but still, it's something that, yeah. So ID equals streamer ID. Identifier equals streamer identifier. There you go. Sorry, I'm not calling it. So I'm saying when you call this, return this value. So I'm configuring the mock. Now this one doesn't throw the object reference. This one does because the test's still not configured properly, but this one fails because now it's expecting to receive the add and it doesn't receive the add because it's not actually got this new label ID. So we need to mock that up. Label repository dot. This is going to be an interesting one. I've not done this before. Arg.is INumerable. No, hold on. This is not. That's not what I do. When R goes to R.add range async, right? When I call add range, what do I want to do here? I want to do this is going to be variable var. Gotta be careful. That variable name is damaging. New tag. Actually, it's a tag. Right. The label's text should be tag. It should be associated with a tag. Right. So when I call that and all the values are, how does that one close off? That one. Okay. When that happens, do this. So info goes to info dot args. This is an interesting one. So what I want to do is I want to go through that collection and set the ID to the controlled ID, right? So that way I can control the data. So I'm emulating what the database is doing. And this is what I'm saying. You've got to be very careful that you don't build too much functionality into your unit test, because I should only make it perform like the actual application would do. And again, I'm making a guess here on this behavior. I believe it's correct. But I'll have to validate that for real when I run it. And that's just an education thing. But what I'm going to try and do here is say, okay, well, when you give me a range that looks like this, then I'm going to assign IDs to those values, because it's all by reference anyway, right? Here. And that way, when I go down here, this new label ID will be the new label ID. So 39 to 45. Oh no, not 39. You agree with my coworkers? What's the matter? But to inline most of those. Okay. Why? Inline, like write down, you prefer to mix and match the variables right beside the code so you can't tell what is part of the arrange. I don't want numbers lying around the code. It doesn't matter about concise, doesn't matter in a unit test. Readability matters more than your regular code, I would say. Why try and be concise? A clear separation means that I can see what everything's doing. And even this, I don't like this, because you see how much code I'm starting to build up. I would rather have all this done once and have this be the only fact. Well, again, concise. So I need the repository. I need to configure these mocks, and then I need to assert on things. So I need these multiple times for certain. The identifier, I'm passing it in the streamer identifier with the call to the command, and I'm using it to validate data later on potentially. So having it hidden doesn't really benefit me. So having these here, and even this new label ID, that's you know, really, you can't type that. That's the first time that message has gone through, and I forgot words. Words are hard. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally on board with the debate. I think it's useful to discuss, but in this respect, I think that it's would be There you go. Yeah, but you can add tabs versus spaces. Yeah. Okay, so this will contain the array, right? Info0 dot, so args that should be add range, enumerable label. Yeah, there you go. It's not stream ID, but it's new label ID. That's fine. The more complicated I make this, if I had multiple labels, the more difficult that's going to get. But we'll worry about that later. That's not insurmountable. Again, I want to be careful. I'm not trying to recreate the database inside of my unit test because that's going to harm me because the behavior, if that behavior isn't what I think it is, then this is all moot anyway. So there we go. Does that pass for the right reason? Yes, it does. So when we associate the label, we do get an ID. We attach that ID to the one we have. We go to add a streamer. We go through the labels. We add the streamer, etc. What's that? Why did that message play again after it's backed up? A test sound. I don't have any sounds playing as far as I'm aware. Unless that's playing with a sound attached to it, which is really annoying. If it is. Um, I don't know. I don't have any sound playing on tests. And my desktop audio is not coming through. So unless Streamlabs posted when it posted that message in there, actually posted the sound. Whoops, I'm in a voice chat. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, so we have the second test passing again, but now our first one's failing, and our first one's failing because it doesn't have it doesn't have the bare minimum of the data, right? Now, again, you can see this is getting kind of messy. I don't like having this replicate. I'm testing two things based upon the same exact data, so I don't really care that I'm doing this. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to remove the arrange and the act. Right. I'm going to create a constructor for right this second. Paste them in there for a second. We're going to put our assertion in here, right? And we can't have a constructor with an asynchronous piece of code. Is there X unit? I believe X unit is pretty opinionated on some of this stuff. So yeah. So what we do is we make this an I async set X unit. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. So we move that part into there. Right. Not the best thing, being I'm making it a range act, but let's move that there. Now we're going to create, all these are going to become, move to class level. Label, tag, streamer, grid, int, string, right? Leave all the variables in the right name, so it'll be fine. Our subject becomes the challenge. So we have a handler. Yeah. Private. Subject. Null. Right. So our constructor is our arrange. Our initialize is our async. Is our act. Now I want to do something that I wouldn't normally do in regular code, but from a readability perspective, I don't like having the all this at the top. I prefer the tests. So I have no issue with the test data being there because that's context of what the tests are going to do. However, this is going to move after the facts, but before the rest. So our arrange, our act, and our assertions are there. This should run. Yeah, okay. So this didn't work because that's not that. Now our test pass. So we're adding the label and we're associating a tag with a streamer. Right? That validates that piece. Yeah. It's done in the constructor. Sweet. Okay. So our constructor, again, this is going to run per test anyway. So it does the net same thing. But I find, and this is again a personal thing, that this is much more understandable. That what I'm validating here matches what I'm saying there, right? The tag repository received an add async for a streamer with a label, then the tag is associated, right? So, and I can check the variables up here, right? So I prefer that style. But that being said, if you think that anything contradicts what is the right way, I will air quote that. for unit testing, I am more than happy to listen. Okay. So with that done there, right, in theory, I can go and run the app. Now, it's not perfect. If I set the tags and then go to set the tags again, I'm going to create a bunch of duplicates, right? There's no tests around those pieces yet, right? But in theory, I can now do exactly what the test says it does, which is to associate labels with streamers as tags. So I'll start this up. All right. So we have this. If we start the app, what is this? It says developers. If you're interested in this code, you're more than welcome to go and check out the repo. Second operation. That is a side effect of me running the application startup twice. Okay, we'll hit login. We go to Twitch. We should redirect into the application. We can see our profile. Okay, here we go. So we go to new tag, C#. Oh, what did you do? What broke? C#. And we hit update. Oh, all is not well. The method operation is not implemented. Update tags. Stream profile service line 85. Yeah, that's yeah, update tags, that command. Identifier and tags. That would definitely cause that, right? I have been playing with Rambling Geek, by the way. If you're still here, I did not see that you resubbed. I'm so very sorry. Thank you very much for 17 months. That's amazing. Thank you. Okay. Go back there again. Try that once more, right? There you go. Okay. Let's do this. I don't mind failing code, but I do mind if I haven't even implemented that code. Oh, that's annoying. This one worked, right? The other one hit at the same time. So we do C#, hit save. So we go to our tables. And let's validate that things are working. Yep. Labels, we got C#. Tags, there's our tag. So we have a tag associated with the streamer. And it worked exactly as intended. So label ID 1 matches C#. So there we go, right? That's add. Now this is going to create duplicates. We know it's going to create duplicates because we haven't allowed for the fact that it's going to take things it's already received. So .NET, and we're going to do Kafka. And we're going to do, I'm the enter button seems to submit the form, so I'm going to just deal with that so far. AMA, right, save. Now, we didn't test what happens if you add multiple. C#.NET Kafka AMA and tags 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4. So there's our tags. Now, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, artist, how you doing? Are you using data visual code? Not sure I understand data visual code. Visual Studio Code? Rather than assume that's what you mean, I'll wait on that one. Okay, so our code so far. Oh dear, I forgot to commit some stuff. Oh dear. Let's see if it gives me context enough. Wow, that's all that is. Include initial dynamic tags control for hello. Are you talking about the IDE I'm using? If you are, then this is JetBrains Rider. Let's do commit and push. Commit anyway, push. Yeah. So this is JetBrains Rider. This is JetBrains Data Grip. I'm using this just to look at the database. If you check out this code, you don't have to use that to query the data. I did include the PG web admin for the PostgreSQL database. But any questions? More than welcome to ask. So I've pushed that. So anyone who wants to check out what I've done so far, including those unit tests, you're more than welcome to go and check that out. So when no tags are associated, right? Now let's tackle when tags are associated and well, actually, and labels exist, right? So what do I want to happen when we're associating tags and actually, no, when no tags associated but labels exist. That's the test, right? Because I want to validate, okay, well, the process is updating tags, right? So I have no tags associated with this user, but there are labels that already exist. So we're testing the duplication of labels first, because that's what we need to cut out. We need to cut out the duplication of labels, right? It's not going to resolve the duplication of tags, because if we look at this, these are still going to get added even if it doesn't re-add these. So, oh, by the way, actually, before we go too far, let's do a bit more visual updates. I'd like to make another test there. If you're following along with this and you have further questions, thoughts, opinions, if you want to just chat about stuff off stream, ask more direct questions, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. I do hang out in there most days recently. Over the past 6 months, I've had some issues, so I don't have a lot. Most of my spare time has been in here, but I am normally in the Discord at some point every day, and more than happy to chat about stuff, either on voice or in text. There is no such thing as a wrong question. Okay, so what I was going to do, let's get the tags displaying. I think, and again, this is a big thing. Oh, so tags aren't showing. We know they're associated with the streamer now. So let's go make that part work before we worry about the rest, because then we can get the display done and move forward with the application. So why aren't they querying? Are they querying and I'm not displaying them, or are they just not coming down with the profile? So let's go to streamer query service, get streamers. There we go. Streamers with linked channels specs. So our streamer DTO has channels. It does not have anything else. And I believe that is what we're showing in the streamer card, right? So a streamer card, well, that was from a different time. So let's uncomment that. Let's do streamer dot, tags. Let's make that work. Let's stop that running a second. So our streamer DTO is going to need public enumerable of string tags. I don't see any benefit in having any IDs pulled down there. We don't need any of that. We're not changing that specifically right this second. So that pulls that piece, but it doesn't obviously solve the query. Streamers with linked channels spec. Streamers with details spec. So streamers. Violet, hello. How you doing? Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. Welcome in all. How was the stream? Good, I hope. Good. What are we up to? Active streamers with details. Spec. Leak code. Cool. Nice. Well, I'm not doing something nearly as cool. However, from t in s.tags, select t.label.text. So what I'm working on today is developers.stream, which is a platform intended to help promote developers who stream, no matter what the platform. I'm about to just test something right a second, so we'll get this started up. This has been a long time project that I've wanted to resurrect, and several weeks ago I did do. The goal is purely to create a platform to support developers who stream, so you can find out if someone comes in your stream and starts chatting, if they're a streamer too, and they have some information, you can see that. You can use APIs and stuff to query that. Also, produce a site that allows people to find developers who stream regardless of the platform. Discoverability on Twitch is not terrible, but also, but if you're on YouTube, that's even harder. So what I'm trying to do is build this, and my artistic talent is, lacking somewhat, but there you go. You see, we got the tags. Now, does that help for the profile? I don't think it helps for the profile. No. Okay. So what we've been working on this morning is adding these tags in there so that you can actually do that. And let's just go and change that a little bit. Streamer card, tags. What do I want to do? P. How are you going to work? That works. MX2. Yeah. That's a bit too. Does this work? No, that does not. Card footer. No, gap does not appear there because I need the grid, etc. Also, it's bootstrap, not tailwind. So yeah. That'll do for now. So C# duplicated. I know that much. That's intentional right now. We've just been adding some unit tests around this piece to validate this behavior, but tags are now in there. So that's a good step forward. Now we just need to make them display here. If you have any questions, opinions, more than welcome to share. Include tags along with StreamDTL. Updated spec for streamer. So again, active streamers with details. So we're trying to pull streamer, only active streamers. What makes them active is the fact that they've got channels attached. Hopefully that's apparent by the where clause in that piece. Right now, I'm going to push these so that anyone who wants to check out what I've done today is more than welcome to go and pull this repo. It is fully open source. What I'm going to do is once I've got this to a point where it is looking better and it is behaving the way that I expect, is I will fork the repo into a private branch on my GitHub to publish from. And because I do have the domain. So yeah. Okay, so concerning update tags, when no tags associated but labels exist. So in this scenario, there's a bunch of labels that already exist. We're worrying about the duplicate labels first. Yeah. So right now, if you go to developers.stream, it's a site that I made about 5 years ago. There's just a list of streamers. This new version is intended to be, you sign up for it. So you sign in, you can sign in with your Twitch account or others pending. And then you'll be able to configure your profile and people will be able to discover you. And we'll work on the search and stuff so that it improves. But yeah, this was years ago. That's Liquid Sky. That's not that. Okay. When no tags associated but labels exist. So in this scenario, what we want to test is that what we're testing, label is not created, and that label tag or label is associated with streamer. Those are our facts. Those are what we want to validate still, right? So we want to make sure that we don't create a new label, but that the label that exists does actually get associated with the streamer still. So we know that it will deal with duplicates. That way, when we run this again, we'll do one of those tags like AMA or something that we only know there's one of, and prove that it doesn't recreate the tag. It'll still duplicate on the streamer, but it will not duplicate the actual tag. So I'm going to be a little lazy here. I'm going to do a bit of copy and pasting, only in the name of time. It's not recommended that you do copy and paste when unit testing, because you could end up copying some assumptions in there. So you'd be very careful. Again, unit testing is, to me, it's about confidence. How confident am I in the value of what I'm writing unit tests for? Not necessarily does it appeal, does it match what someone's expectation of a unit test is? Again, we have different opinions on code, right? That's who we are. I'm going to take these pieces down here because we're going to async lifetime. And we'll put a constructor down there to start. Yep. Okay. Let's set up the basics. Right. Actually, I kind of don't mind doing it this way. And normally what I do is I don't set these up here, I set these up in here, but I kind of like this because it means that there's very little of the actual arrange that's arrange, that's not arrange, is declaration. So, that's how I might come across. Anyway. So we're going to handle this one. To set this up properly though, what do we need? So what we're validating is that label repository did not receive add async any label, right? So we are validating that we did not add a label, and we're essentially validating this, right? Async task. We're validating that we did add for existing label ID, right? Try and keep the numbers separate so you can see what you're doing. If you see the ID, it stands out in any other data. I don't like silly test data. It should be apparent what it is. So what we need to do here now is say label repository. Well, actually, let's prove that our test runs and fails for the right reasons, right? It should fail on this. object reference not set to an instance of an object. Object reference not. Failed at line 29. Oh, because the label was not set up correctly, right? So it's because this piece is not valid and this piece is not valid. So let's make sure the stream is there. Right. Now, you see that these appearing at the top are getting heavier. So let's do this. Let's create a global usings. And add that. And then paste that in there. Then, if we go over here, we put global in front of it. Now, when we go back to our class, everything's still valid, and we don't have a bunch of usings at the top of our file. So it keeps it cleaner. You get into the code quicker, and it helps with the organization. Generally, I only do that when I'm including the same usings over and over and over again. If there's not a lot of duplication, yeah. Okay. So let's run that once more. Let's validate that it's passing or failing for the right reasons, right? So label is not created. Interesting. Right. And expected to call. Right. So we added a new label and yeah, it created existing. Okay. Actually, that one should have. No, because we didn't set it up. We didn't set up the fact that it's going to return that label ID. So it didn't give it an ID and therefore it was bad. So what we need to do is now tackle what is new versus existing label. So what am I trying to validate here? So I'm trying to validate I don't call add range. So label repository dot list async any cancellation token really. Arg dot any label IDs for tag spec dot returns. So this is what we were talking about before, right? So this is going to return a list of labels that have the text. So returns new label, ID equals existing label ID, text equals tag. Right. So we're configuring it so it will return that. So now what we're aiming for is this to pass because this exists. Right. So we don't call list async yet. So we need to go and make this pass now. So let's go over here. Did that really just take me to the... Oh yeah, because I've got a link. Okay. So I wish it did. How you doing, Gupta? How is your day going? Oh, how did your day go? depending on where you are. Okay, so let's do var existing labels equals label repository dot list async. Let's await that. I always forget the await, and then I'm wondering why my variables are broken afterwards. New label IDs for tag spec. Command.tags. Cancellation token. Now, existing labels. If existing labels.any how do I make this pass? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to do the bare minimum. The code could get ugly, but if I can make the test pass, I can be confident that the behaviors are correct and that I don't break the original tests by doing this. And if I do that, then I know that at least these things are true about what I'm doing. Or I have confidence. Then I don't know for certain, right? Because there's certain things that I can't understand how the database is going to interact. This is one thing when you're doing unit testing, it's great until you get to database behavior, because you can mock up behavior the way you think it should work, but only when you run it for the first time does it actually do that. So, with experience, with time, you'll start to understand what it can do. In this case, I'm actually still curious as to the behavior, but, the first time proved it does work that way. But I just get more confident with it as I go through. Well, that being said, I shouldn't be like, it'll be fine. It'll work. So if I have the existing labels, then labels to add should be dot where L T goes to T dot existing labels dot. So let's to list this. Right. Existing labels. Dot contains L goes to L dot text when not any equals T. Yeah, okay. I always like doing any and it always. I never think about all first, because I'm thinking about the way I'm saying it, the way that I'm considering it, right? So, yeah. Now the problem is, labels equals labels to add dot union, right? That's really what we have. So we're going to get the existing ones. We're going to figure out which ones we need to add by doing the labels to add. Then we're going to union them together, and that combined is the actual labels we need to use here. Make sense? Let's see if it works. Oh no. Expect to receive no calls matching. Okay, so why did we still call add range? Well, because we didn't test to see if labels to add any, right? So again, what I'm validating here is the push pull, right? What is happening here? So it failed on existing labels because there's no configuration for this. So let's go make that test pass. So our second test passed. Our no tags are associated, but labels exist. We now don't get a duplicate. We get the tag back that we expected. We don't call add range. We're fine. What we do need to do is do label repository dot when r goes to r dot list async, right? R dot any cancellation token dot no this is when we're calling that, right? Returns there you go. We just need to make sure that that requirement is met of the code, right? So again, the more logic, the more repositories we add in here, the more behavior we have in here, the more complicated this piece is actually going to get, because we're going to have to set up data. We're going to have to consider different use cases, and it's going to get more difficult to test. You think about all the other use cases here. So when tags are duplicated, when we add multiple of the same tag, what does that do? When, you know, there's all sorts of different scenarios we can carry it through. What you've got to do is when you're writing the unit test, you've got to validate, is this realistic of the code, or is it going to be validated elsewhere? Are we going to prevent this? Is it a real use case? One thing that I have enjoyed doing is putting validators around the handler. So if I want to check for things existing, or I want to check for the you know, reduce duplication in the actual thing, I don't put that logic in here. I assume that the data that's coming into my handler is the code is in the form that is good in the context of I can use this thing, rather than, oh well, I need to make sure it's good and it's safe and that, because if you start getting a load of guard code in here, it becomes even more difficult to understand this. Okay. Do not create duplicate labels for um, when when updating tags. We should not create duplicate labels. Instead, right now, I'm implicitly, I don't want to go into a complete description there. I'm implicitly assuming that this will work for 2 the same way it will do for 1, right? There's no behavior in here that tells me that it's going to be misbehave if I have 2 labels versus 1 label. Now, again, the test here is, if I add AMA, do I only have 1 AMA duplicate tag and not, well, do I have 1 label AMA, but 2 tags AMA? That's the next step to validate that. So we are going to test this, and then we'll wrap up. Again, you're more than welcome to check out this project. It's using Blazor and Aspire, which is working nicely so far. Blaze is still a challenge for me, but we'll get there. Okay, so we go into here now. And again, what I'm validating here is right now I have C#, C#, .NET, Kafka, AMA. And we have these tags. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to try and clean the data up right this second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and add AMA again. We shouldn't see a row here. We will see a row appear here for 5 and 4. So this we'll see a 6th row up here that looks like a duplicate of the 5th row. Some of this is coming down to understanding the code you're writing, right? It's understanding how it's behaving. So we do not have a duplicate label. We do have a duplicate tag. So our test is valid. We've verified our unit tests. Our unit tests are now backing us up and allowing us to build on this. And again, it's just more of the same here. What we need to do is continue to build on the functionality. And that's why I stopped. You know, we started the conversation about the unit testing and maybe creating a different branch. But really, I feel there's value in this. There's no value in not doing this at this point. And this logic, I just could not get in the right shape in my head. And unit tests will allow me to do that. So there we go. So we're adding labels, we're adding tags. We're not duplicating labels now. So if we come in here, we won't create a bunch of duplications. Now the tags is a simple version of this one, right? Is go and get tags for labels and figure out what's different. But that is, unfortunately, the end of this for now. Liquid Sky development is proceeding. We are now adding teams into the mix. So starting on Wednesday, I'll be looking at, well, I'll probably be further along on that at this point, but the idea of associating teams with a user and associating sprints with a team and being able to kind of organize that way. So starting to add more organization in. Liquid Sky is up and running, and as I've added into the channel. If you are interested in testing out this new product management and planning platform, you're more than welcome to do it. It's not really a solo tool. It works, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. But this is the focus of Tuesdays through Thursdays on this stream. Unfortunately, tomorrow I can't stream. I have a doctor's appointment during the stream time. So unfortunately, I can't do that. But we are using this. This is actually the running version. And we are using this to plan out the upcoming features. You can see over the weekend, Teams administration was started. So now it's not deployed yet, but that is functional. We can go in and see sprints. These are the requirements of this. Now, what this has allowed me to do by thinking through this is to see, you know what, this would have been an initiative of teams, and these would have actually been probably planning items of their own. So Teams administration would have been a planning item that had the requirements of, I would like to add a user. I would like to add a team. I would like to see a list of teams and break them up that way. And that way you could actually deploy them differently. You could build them differently and see progress a little quicker. So yeah, that is proceeding. So exciting. It's good to see features start to appear. As always, OneLine, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for being an awesome mod. I do not do a very great job of doing shout outs. So OneLine is saving me from myself a lot of the time with shout outs. So I apologize, you know, if you came in and you didn't get a shout out, whatever, but well, you didn't get a verbal shout out from me. OneLine is on top of that. And I really appreciate it. And developers.stream is really aimed to try and help with those things. I'm not very good at diverting. I can spend too long on those things. So thank you very much. But OneLine is also a streamer and a fantastic streamer at that. does a lot more with Blazor, and is very worth a follow if you haven't followed yet. So, that said, we're going to rate Maybe. I like rating Maybe. Maybe's a nice guy. His stream is intended for mature audiences, but he's working on Barely Fit. He's trying to take a product to market, and I think that's something that's very appealing to me. And he's a lot further ahead. Barely Fit is looking awesome, but he's been doing a lot of that, and very worth a follow if you haven't yet followed. So I will return tomorrow. No, I will not return tomorrow. I'll return on Wednesday with Liquid Sky. If you have any questions about developers.stream in the meantime, please just reach out. I'm more than happy to do that, to talk about that. And hopefully the unit testing was useful. So have a great day all. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye all.